Hi everyone, welcome to the A to Z Movie Show. I'm Charlie Zizza, your average moviegoer.
I'm AJ Beltis, your aspiring movie critic. And guys, it's Oscar week. We have the 90th Annual Academy Awards airing on Sunday, and there are a lot of burning questions. I mean, as you know, Charlie, the whole award season has gotten pretty predictable over the last few years. So, Gary Oldman might just be winning his Best Actor Oscar. We know that Frances McDormand might be winning her second Academy Award. But we'll break all that down. We're going to break down a couple of your thoughts. Some people tweeted in letting us know what they think their thoughts of Snubs and predictions are for the Oscars. So we look forward to vocalizing your thoughts. But yeah, this is going to be a chock-full super Oscar episode. We're going to give you our preferences, our predictions, our snubs, and the people who we think were unfortunately left off of all the major categories this year. We're going to be going through the acting categories, the screenplay categories, best director, ultimately leading up to best picture. So stay tuned. We got a great episode for you guys. This is one of my favorite episodes every year. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. And AJ, why don't you explain a little bit about how we're going to order these categories?
Sure. So to keep it fun, I have a random list. I have a set list of numbers 1 through 7. Charlie does not know the order of that list, and so after we finish every category, Charlie's going to give me a number from 1 to 7. We're going to talk about that number's corresponding category. Ultimately, like I said, leading up to Best Picture, which will be the last one, there's going to be episode show notes letting you know at what point we're going to talk about every single category. So if you want to jump specifically to a certain topic, feel free to jump right to it in the show notes. You don't have to listen to Best Supporting Actor if you don't want to listen to that, for example.
And as always, guys, if you like our show, make sure you rate and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to, whether it be iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, or whatever it is. And also, let us know what you think. Send us an email at theatozmovieshow@gmail.com, or tweet at us at A2ZMovieshow, or message us on Facebook, or comment on our Facebook page, also at A2ZMovieshow. We'd be happy to consider your thoughts and maybe give you a shout out if you have something cool to say.
Charlie?
Yes?
What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Haze from Treehouse.
Good call.
It's a good call. Strong IPA. It comes in a purple can.
The first time I had Haze, I was like, why am I just drinking peach juice? But then I've had it a couple times since, and I really appreciate it.
Peach juice?
It's a very good beer. Yeah, I mean, it's a peachy double IPA.
I don't taste the peach, but
it's literally, they describe it as a peach bomb.
It's very hoppy.
I am going in for a Lefty's Brewing Company chocolate oatmeal stout. I like that brewery. It's pretty solid. And, yeah. I got a nice tall glass to get me through this episode.
Okay.
So I'm excited. It's an Oscar episode. This is actually back when we did A to Z Movie Show back in college. Charlie and I did this very same format with the Associate Dean of Student Life, who was a big movie buff.
Who? I remember.
Yeah. So... This is going back to the old days for Charlie and I. We're reliving one of our original episode formats. But we're doing it 5 years later. So, should be a good time. Or 4 years later.
Have we done this twice together?
No, because you weren't there for the other ones.
What do you mean? Did we only do this 1 year?
We only did the movie show 1 year.
Huh. Okay.
All right,
I do remember that episode, though.
All right, Charlie, let's jump right into it. Why don't you do me a favor and give me a number between 1 and 7?
4.
Number 4. All right, we got a good one right off the bat. We're going for Best Director. The nominees for Best Director are Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig, who is only the 5th woman to ever be nominated for Best Director at the Oscars, and she's nominated for Lady Bird. Yep. And Paul Thomas Anderson, who's nominated for Phantom Thread. So the first thing I want to ask you, Charlie, do you think that there's anyone that should have been nominated that was left off of this list?
Definitely. And keep in mind, guys, as we're going along, if you've listened to previous episodes, but I have not seen quite as many movies of 2017 as AJ has. There are quite a few on the nominee lists, and quite a few probably that AJ is predicting or wanting that I have not seen. So my lists are going to be affected by the fact that I haven't seen all of the movies of 2017. So with that said, I think a big movie that was left out for the category of Best Director is The Disaster Artist.
Really?
You don't think so?
I can see why you said it because I know you like it so much. James Franco did a good job. He did a good job.
He directed it also?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that this movie was definitely dependent on it being handled really well. It's like I've been saying, it's a unique movie. the concept of it is different. Like, you're making a movie about making a movie, and it's like kind of like a touchy subject for people, and it has to be done just right. It has to be funny. It has to be believable and a little bit relatable. And I think they pulled that off really well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it a really good movie. And I think that, to me, as the average moviegoer, director and best picture, I don't want to say go hand in hand, but, you know, you can't have a best picture without the director at least being really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think that The Disaster Artist really was a great movie, and I think it was a hard movie to make, and they pulled it off.
Yeah, the Academy usually ignores comedies for Best Picture and Best Director, so it didn't really surprise me, but knowing you liked it so much, I understand why you wish it had been nominated.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense that they ignore comedies in my mind. I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing, but, I mean, comedy is subjective, too. Like,
what else do you think should be nominated for Best Director, if anything?
With that, it wasn't nominated?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I didn't really... I mean, then let's see what we have.
I'm surprised you didn't say the director of Call Me By Your Name.
Why?
Because that was your favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, but
There's number one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should be nominated, but I definitely don't think that whoever it was should win. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe should be on the list, but not a huge deal that they're not.
I have one big snub and then one minor snub. My big snub is Sean Baker for the Florida Project. I have it now on, as I like to say, home video or Blu-ray. Charlie, I hope you'll watch it soon, and I think you'll understand why I'm angry about this snub.
I do want to watch it soon.
Yeah, it's it put a lot of trust in a group of actors who are not very experienced to tell a story that was not very conventional in a way that it needed to be told. So I really wish that Sean Baker had been nominated. And I actually had Catherine Bigelow for Detroit on here. I think, that movie's also on Hulu, which I just found out recently. So maybe you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it for free. Really good movie and still really timely, even though it took place 50 years ago. So Catherine Bigelow did a very good job of telling a spanning story and kind of keeping the pacing really solid. It felt a lot longer than it was, and I mean that in a good way, because it kind of carried itself extremely well over a long period of time, but also kept the pacing intentional. So I wish that had been nominated. I thought Catherine Bigelow did a good job there. One that is not nominated that I'm not mad about, but technically a snub, is Martin McDonagh for 3 Billboards, but I'm not too upset about that.
Technically a snub?
Technically, it was one that was sort of predicted to be nominated that was not nominated. So who on this list do you think should not be here? I know that you haven't seen Dunkirk. You have not seen Lady Bird, but
I don't think there's anybody on this list that shouldn't be on the list.
I don't know.
Now keep in mind again, there are movies I haven't seen, so maybe there's a movie I haven't seen whose director should replace somebody on this list. But that said, I think that all 5 movies on this list, I'm looking at it right now. Well, I haven't seen Lady Bird. Or I haven't seen Dunkirk either, but I'd imagine that's very... I mean, if it's a good movie, a war movie, you gotta have a good director. So I think that all of the movies here are justified.
I'm a little surprised Phantom Thread got on there. I'm a little angry. I think that even above Sean Baker and Catherine Bigelow, I think there were better directors who should have been nominated. I would even see the director of Call Me By Your Name beating out Paul Thomas Anderson for the director spot here.
Okay.
But that's just me.
Still, Phantom Thread's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. But we'll save that for the Best Picture discussion. Charlie, give me your prediction and your preference for Best Director of 2017. For the 2017
Okay, so this one's a little bit weird. My prediction's going to be Dunkirk. Now, I haven't seen it, but like I was saying...
That would make me very, very happy.
Like I was saying, if it is as good as they say it is, it's a war movie, there's a lot going on, there's a lot to handle as a director, then, yeah, I mean, he's got to have done a good job. That's my prediction. It's just what I think is more likely than not. What do you want me to say? What I want to win?
I know you've only seen The Shape of Water, Get Out, and Phantom Thread, but of those 3 movies, which one do you think was best directed?
I would say The Shape of Water.
Interesting. So that's your preference.
Right, I mean, so I didn't like The Shape of Water, but the reason I didn't like The Shape, but why I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it, and that's mostly because of the story. But the director doesn't have much of a say, if any, in the story. So it's still, considering I still gave it a decent rating, even though I was thoroughly bored, that says something about the director.
I'm going to flip it for you. My prediction is Guillermo del Toro, just because he's won almost every directing award thus far. My preference, though, is Christopher Nolan, just because not only... I think both of these men are long overdue. Both Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro are long overdue for recognition from the Academy. I think Christopher Nolan is just more deserving from a career standpoint, but for even in the arguments of the movie, I think Dunkirk was a bigger directorial undertaking. It was a bigger story to be told. I love The Shape of Water. I love all the minor details. I love the acting. I love the music. I love the set. All fantastic job from Del Toro. If he wins, I will not be angry, but I would just personally rather see Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I can't really say that I want it to win if I haven't seen it. I can predict that it will, but I can't say that I want it to win if I haven't seen the movie. So.
All right, Charlie, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, or 7. Let's move on to a new category. 7. Number 7 is Best Supporting Actress. We have Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, and Octavia Spencer for Some Reason. Sorry, I mean for The Shape of Water. People who I think should have been nominated. Michelle Pfeiffer, I know you haven't seen it, but I thought she was outstanding in Mother for a movie that was in many ways irredeemable. She was the most irredeemable part of it. And I'm going to plug the Florida Project again and say Bria Knight, I don't know how to say her name, she played the worst mother ever in a very convincing way. And I would have loved to have seen her get some recognition. They literally found this girl on Instagram, and they said, we want her to audition for the role. And she brought out the most despicable character I've seen in movies this year.
How did they find her on Instagram? Was she a bad mother in real life?
No, she was just an Instagram model.
Okay.
And we also have someone who tweeted in and let us know who they thought missed out on the role or the nomination this year. And this is someone who has been kind of listed as one of the snubs for Best Supporting Actress. That's Holly Hunter for The Big Sick. I know you haven't seen this. It is available on Amazon Prime. The Big Sick's a great movie. We'll talk about it when we go to original screenplay. But Holly Hunter plays the mother of a girl who's in a coma, who's kind of forced to interact with this girl's ex-boyfriend. And she plays this like old white mom, and the boyfriend's this Pakistani kid, and she's very set in her ways. And it's a really hysterical but sincere performance, seeing her kind of change her ways. And I was surprised that Holly Hunter was not nominated. Looking at this list, I definitely could have seen her being nominated over some of the women here. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that snub. And that comment was from Sean Blanford at Movie Burb. So thanks for your comment, Sean. I think I agree with you. I really wish that Holly Hunter had a better chance of being nominated.
Yeah, awesome. Cool.
Who do you think is missing from this list, Charlie?
I didn't have anybody for this one for a snub for supporting actress. But I can tell you who, and we agree on this, who I think should not be on this, Octavia Spencer. And that's not that she did a bad job. I just don't get why it was such a big deal. It wasn't a standout role. It wasn't a big deal. She did a fine job in the comedic relief role.
I would say that, and I would also see you and say Mary J. Blige from Mudbound. I think,
again, I agree, actually.
She did a fine job. I mean, she played the mother role well, but I didn't see that and say that was the best performance of Mudbound. I thought Carey Mulligan, Jason Clarke, Garrett Hedlund, Jason Mitchell, even Jonathan Banks as that racist father, different category, of course, but I would say almost every other performance in Mudbound was just as good, if not better. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I think this was also an issue of somebody who kind of came in from, like we talked about, the music scene, who Hollywood likes people who can be versatile,
But that said, for my prediction, I have 2 predictions, and she's one of them, but that's not because I want her to win.
Well, all right, so tell me, you have 2 predictions? You have 2 winners?
Yeah, I mean, I just can't really decide between the 2. That's kind of what I wrote down. I wouldn't pick her as my final. I'd pick Allison Janney as my final.
Prediction?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who's your preference?
Leslie Manville and Phantom Thread, without a doubt. Of the ones on the list.
And why is that?
I just remember her being really good.
All right. Well, if your preference is Leslie Manville and your prediction is Allison Janney, I'm going to agree with you 100%. Allison Janney has swept every single award in the major docket for Best Supporting Actress. I would be shocked if she did not win. There's been no lack of support for her throughout this entire series. There was a little push for Laurie Metcalf towards the beginning from Lady Bird. I know you haven't seen it, but some people think she may come back and take it. I don't think so. I think this is Allison Janney. She's won Emmy, she's won Golden Globe, she's won Screen Actors Guild Award. She's a huge favorite in the acting industry, and I think this is their chance to finally give her an Oscar. So we'll see if this works out for her, but I think it will. My preference, though, is Leslie Manville. I remember when I walked out of that movie, the one thing that really stuck with me out of all the confusion and coming up from that boredom was Leslie Manville really deserved some sort of recognition for this role because she was sick and twisted and awesome. And I really hope... I'm glad she got nominated. I think her nomination is sort of her version of a win, though, because she wasn't sort of predicted to be a nominee. But we'll see how that all plays out. I would like to see her win, though.
Yeah, I would agree. Of the list, she's probably the best.
Can I have a number from 1, 2, 3, 2? Going right to 2. So, sticking it with the actresses, we're moving to Best Actress in a Leading Role for the 2018 Academy Awards. Charlie, let's talk about our nominees here. We have Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Meryl Streep for The Post, and Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird. One person I think is really missing from this list is Elizabeth Olsen from Wind River, which is a movie that I know you haven't seen. I think this was her best performance since 2011's Marcy May Marlene. One other person I think is missing from this list, sorry to say it again, Brooklyn Prince from The Florida Project. She is this little girl, and she is playing such a hard character at such a young age, and I think she pulled it off, flawlessly. So, would have loved to have seen her get nominated, but the Academy just doesn't like good movies for some reason.
Wow. Okay. I don't have a snub for this one. I'm flipping through the 2017 movies right now, and I'm not seeing anything that stands out to me for a snub for Best Actress.
All right. I'm also going to kind of stick with that theme and say when it comes to people that I don't think should be on this list, despite the fact that I have some snubs, I really can't think of who would kick off this list. I mean, all 5 women were great. This was an exceptional year for Best Lead Actress. All 5 of these people deserve their nomination.
We talked about before how Frances McDormand she wasn't that different from the role she normally plays.
True, but even on its own, I thought it was a solid performance, and she deserved to be nominated. If she did not get nominated, I would have been angry. I'll be angry if she wins, okay.
But she could easily be knocked off by somebody else if there was somebody pretty good in a different movie.
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, the awards are heavily political, and so it would really be a shocker if she didn't get nominated. All right, so let's just. I think we're on the same page there. Let's move into prediction and preference. My prediction is Frances McDormand. Again, someone who has won the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice, the Screen Actors Guild, the BAFTA. She has had such a run, and I don't think anyone's really going to upstage her here. Preference, though, goes to Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water. I think the fact that she could do so much with so few words. You look at everything that Frances McDormand did. So few
words. Isn't she mute?
She had that one little scene where she sang. Remember that?
Oh, because she had the magic power from Yep. Okay.
So I would say just the fact that for the most part she had no words and she conveyed all that emotion. She carried that movie. I was not a Sally Hawkins fan before this movie, and after this I can say that my mind has completely changed. If Sally Hawkins weren't nominated this year, I'd be pulling for Margot Robbie because I thought, what an outstanding performance from I, Tonya.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my preferences and predictions lie. How about you?
I think that's a really valid point about Sally Hawkins for Shape of Water. I think you're right. Without her, that movie wouldn't be what it is.
Hey, you got Octavia Spencer giving a great performance there. I mean, Oscar-nominated caliber performance.
Oh, my God. So, my prediction...
Sorry, I got to interrupt here. I know we're going back. Who the hell is going to say, oh, did you see that movie, The Shape of Water? No, I haven't. Oh, you have to see it. Octavia Spencer was amazing.
Yeah, I really, really don't get it.
I don't understand it. I don't. I really don't.
I don't. Come on, whatever. I mean, yeah. I really don't get it either. Maybe they ran out of people to place in the slots?
They didn't, though. I don't understand. The same thing happened last year for Hidden Figures. Why does the Academy like Octavia Spencer so much? I don't understand it. I really don't.
I don't. Maybe there's something going behind the scenes that we don't know about.
I don't know. Just shut me up and give me your nomination and preference and prediction.
So my prediction here, Frances McDormand. like she did a good job in the movie. To me, somebody who plays the same character in every movie or a similar character in every movie is always a red flag for me. But I think I harp on that a little bit more than other people do, or maybe even you should. I think she did a pretty good job in the movie, and she plays a really, like you said, the Academy is political, and to give her this win would be a political move, possibly. So anyway, I think she'll probably win it. Who I want to win, Meryl Streep. I think she was really convincing in that role, and without her, The Post would have been mediocre, I think.
That's a really good point to bring up, that she did carry that movie, because you're right.
Yeah, she did.
Completely did.
Tom Hanks was good too, but not good enough to make The Post as big as it was.
He didn't get nominated for his performance in lead actor.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of build up for this movie, and as soon as it came out, everyone was, okay, sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. Yeah, Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors, but he did a great job, but I wasn't blown away by it. So,
Charlie, 1, 3, 5, and 6.
Let's do 1.
1. All right, keeping in the theme of acting, we're going to head over to Best Actor in a Leading Role. Charlie, anybody you think is missing from this list? I think I know the answer.
Do you? Okay. James Franco.
James Franco for The Disaster Artist.
Yeah. Come on. You can't... The Disaster Artist would... he is the movie.
Yeah.
It's
a shame that this got political, even if...
Is it? Oh, yeah. We talked about that before. Can you explain again?
Sure. Some women came out a couple days before the voting, right, and saying that... I don't know to what extent... I don't want to get too into it, but I do think it is important to differentiate the acts and the accusations. From what I understand, they were serious. They were, abusive, but he didn't actually, from what I read, didn't assault anyone. And
so, is this something that's still going on? If they were to announce the nominations tomorrow, would he be on this list? Do you think?
I think there's a chance, honestly. Okay. It's timing too.
He did an incredible job.
He really did.
He was Tommy Wiseau.
Mm-hmm. So it's. I agree, it's frustrating not to see him nominated. He was my snub. And I'm looking at people. Gary Oldman was nominated for Darkest Hour, Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Timothée Chalamet for Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. So Charlie, you're definitely adamant, just like me, that James Franco should have been nominated. Who would you have kicked off this list to give the spot to James Franco? From what you've seen. Because I think you've seen everyone except for Denzel.
Yeah, right.
And to be fair, I have not seen that either.
Roman J. Israel Esquire?
Yeah.
I haven't even heard of that.
The consensus is the movie's bad, but he's fine in it.
He's fine. Okay. Well, then
he's
probably him. Other than that, that's tough. Probably Get Out.
Yeah.
Daniel, how do you pronounce that?
Kaluuya.
Kaluuya?
He
was good, but...
He was good.
No, he was good, but...
Out of all
I think he could have been replaced with somebody else.
Out of all the leading acting performances this year, the one that surprised me most was Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out. I thought he did just a totally fine job, but there was no moment where he really blew me away, except maybe that first hypnosis scene. But everything else, it was fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't him that made the movie.
Yeah,
the movie was great, and he could have been replaced.
Yeah, this was
with somebody
Jordan
else.
Peele's movie.
Yeah, so I agree on that. Maybe Denzel Washington, I don't know, but I haven't seen that. So,
who is your preference and prediction based only on the people that you see on the nomination ballot?
My prediction, and I would probably not have said this had I not thought about it a little bit harder today before we started recording this episode. Gary Oldman.
Your prediction?
And also my want. I'm sure I've seen him in other things. I know I have.
You have.
This
man is Sirius Black.
I know I've seen him in other movies, but he really convinced me on Winston Churchill in this. Mm-hmm. And he even brought him more to life than I didn't really have a really concrete image of who Winston Churchill was. But coming out of the movie, I did. And I sort of went back and did a little bit of research, and I found out that a lot of the things that Gary Oldman portrayed as Winston Churchill are true. I don't really have a sense in my mind of who Gary Oldman is as an actor. So the fact that he did this role, this really important lead role, really well, I think that's really cool.
This man is a chameleon. He played that he played the terrorist in Air Force One. He played Sirius Black. He played a villain in Leon. And in The Fifth Element, he went on to do a drug dealer role in True Romance. I mean, this guy can do anything. He played a British spy in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He is such a talented actor. That's why he is both my prediction and my preference as well. The only argument that I've heard against his potential win is that his performance was... some people could read his performance being successful based on his prosthetics and the makeup, which I can see why someone would say that. I still, though, think his line delivery, and I'm looking at his anger in his eyes right now on an image that I pulled up of him. He did a great job in this movie. He is one of the greatest film actors, I would hedge to say, of all time, and I'm happy he's being nominated. I wish he had gotten some recognition a little earlier. This is only his second nomination to date, it seems crazy. But this man is a phenomenal actor, and I will be very happy to see him holding his Oscar this Sunday. And if he doesn't, I'll be very angry.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize that it took a lot of work to make Gary Oldman look like Winston Churchill in any capacity. Mm-hmm. But, no, that doesn't mean that doesn't take away from the performance he gave. I think it was equal. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't have a guy who doesn't look like Churchill playing Churchill, but also you need a guy who can act like Churchill playing him. And I think you had both there, so he definitely deserves it.
Charlie, 3, 5, or 6 as we move on to our next category?
Let's do 5.
5. All right, we're finally ditching acting, and we're heading over to Best Original Screenplay. This, for me, aside from Best Picture, was the toughest category to predict. And I'll get to that in a second. But in this category, we've got Get Out, The Big Sick, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I have a few people that I think are missing from this list, and I think Baby Driver, it was a really good screenplay. It probably wouldn't have been my pick for the best screenplay, but I liked it. It was quippy. It was funny. It took the kind of the foundation of a action movie with the guy and the love interest and the villain, and kind of elevated it with a lot more humor and laid the base for a phenomenal technical achievement. So I wish that had been nominated, as well as Wind River and, as I mentioned, Detroit. Those are my 3 snubs that I wish had been nominated. Any miss-outs you think here?
I'm just going to say right now that I don't have any snubs for either of the screenplay categories.
All right.
Just because I don't know enough about it, and I haven't seen enough of the movies to really say.
All right. In that case, let's just plow right on and give our preferences and our predictions. Oh, sorry. Any movies you think should be kicked out of here first?
Screenplay original?
Yes. I got 2. Shape of Water, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
But I don't. You have to have something to replace them, though.
I did. Baby Driver, Wind River, and Detroit. I have too many movies to replace them with.
Okay.
Shape of Water, again, I thought the story was fitting, but I don't think the screenplay was great. It wasn't a groundbreaking story achievement. It was a very simple story that fit the way that the movie should have been told. But even so, that was probably the most disappointing part or aspect of the entirety of The Shape of Water. And 3 Billboards, you know my feelings towards this movie. I think it really mismanaged its characters, and that bothered me a lot. And I'm going to go on a quick aside here. When I was in London, I was catching up with a friend that I went to my film school with, and when I studied abroad there. And I was talking to him about 3 Billboards, and he had mentioned that he was looking really into screenplays and story structure because he's an aspiring filmmaker. He said that as soon as he sat down and saw the way that Sam Rockwell was acting towards Frances McDormand's character, he said, I knew exactly how it was going to turn around. I knew what these characters were going to do. I knew how this movie was going to end because he was studying the cyclical nature and like circling back of characters and their redemption stories. And he said, as soon as I saw this, that was the textbook version of this to end. And that really reaffirmed my idea, well, now I have a legitimate excuse to not like this movie. But even so, objectively, I don't like this movie at all, and I don't think it's a very good movie or a good screenplay.
You don't, or he doesn't?
Both of us. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at with 3 Billboards. But the other 3 screenplays I thought were pretty solid.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not with you totally that 3 Billboards is not a good movie. I think it's a good movie.
I know you.
I don't think it's as good as the hype. And I do think that... No, I say think loosely, but my prediction is that Three Billboards will win Best Original Screenplay. Mm-hmm. And that is largely because I don't know the other movies here. Well, I don't know two of them. And Shape of Water, can't see that winning. And what's the other one? Get Out. I don't know. I don't think it's the screenplay that makes Get Out good.
What about your preference?
Where are we here? I have... Why do I have Get Out as my preference?
Because Get Out's awesome, and Get Out is my preference, too.
Okay. I don't really have any reason why... I don't know. I don't really have any opinion on this category, so...
Alright, as I said, my preference is Get Out. Also, a kind of a bold prediction here. I'm also going to say that Get Out will win Best Original Screenplay. That's tough for me to say because Three Billboards does still have some momentum. I think the fact that Get Out has a lot of supporters from the critics and the fan base, I think the Oscars might want to acknowledge that. So I'm hoping that it wins. I think that it will win. Jordan Peele just won the Writers Guild of America award over Lady Bird for Best Original Screenplay. Three Billboards was not nominated, so that doesn't mean that Three Billboards should be counted out. So it's probably going to be a very close call between Get Out and Three Billboards. I'm going to predict Get Out. But we'll see how that falls. This is probably going to be one of the closest races of the night.
Okay. So
you have 3 and 6 left.
6.
6. All right. Best Supporting Actor. Charlie, who's missing from this list?
Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer. Anyone else?
Do you agree?
That's my number. That's he probably would have been my preference to win if he were nominated. I'm very sad he's not here. He had so much energy in that role.
Yeah.
I'm very sad and disappointed that he was not nominated.
Yeah, I don't really get it. He was a critical piece of making that movie good, and he succeeded. So that's all I have, though.
And on the topic of Call Me by Your Name, another follower of ours, Heather Colwell, said that Michael Stuhlbarg, who played the dad in Call Me by Your Name, should have been nominated. What do you think about that?
He was a pretty minor character.
But
I think when he was there, he was good.
The biggest pull that people have been sort of hearkening back to when they're talking about his potential nomination was his final scene, where he portrayed a very accepting father. That little speech and conversation he had with his son. I acknowledge that, and I appreciate that. I don't think that one speech really should have carried him to a nomination. So,
especially that one. I mean, it was a good scene. I remember the scene. So.
I think the character is very important. I think the character would hopefully pave the way for dads who get this news from their children to have a conversation in a very similar way, and to be as accepting and progressive. So the character, super important.
It was interesting. It was an interesting scene too, because it was very subtle.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of subtlety in that movie. So I think he was great in that movie. I think he sort of did his job. I don't know if it warrants a recognition as one of the 5 best supporting male performances of the year.
I agree with you, but I think that's mostly because he only had so much ability in that role to perform really well. Yeah. I mean, he was in a lot of scenes, but they were, he played a small role in the scenes. So I totally get it, but like I said, he's a minor character. So
you got Armie Hammer. We both have Armie Hammer. Who would you kick off of this list in order to put Armie Hammer there? I would, given the movies I've seen, I'm sorry, I love him. I really love this guy, but I would kick Sam Rockwell off, preference-wise. And that said, I have not seen All the Money in the World, so I can't comment on Christopher Plummer, but I don't get the Sam Rockwell hype here either. I watched the movie. Yeah. I don't get why he's nominated at all.
I kind of agree. Also, Woody Harrelson.
I would disagree with you there.
Richard Jenkins was pretty good, but not... I mean, he's better than both Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
But in a more competitive year, I don't see him on the list.
I'll agree with you there. But yeah, I guess this just wasn't a very strong year for supporting male performances.
Yeah. So
what's your preference and prediction here?
My prediction, Sam Rockwell.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And again, political reasons for that.
Mm-hmm. Which is ironic too, because he really had sort of an unjustified story arc.
What do you mean?
Like
not believable?
Yeah, and even so, I mean, he sort of redeemed himself, but he's still kind of a dick at the end of the movie.
In a different way, a very different way.
Yeah.
We've gone on this rant before.
Yeah.
Or at least I have, and during our review of this movie, which is actually our first episode, and I just don't believe this 180, or almost 180, that this guy takes. Mm-hmm. But that's not his fault, that's the writer's fault.
And that's what that's actually specifically that character motivation is what my friend was talking about back in London. He said that's...
Oh, he doesn't believe that.
He said he said as soon as he sat down, he thought he knew that 180 was coming.
Yeah.
Even though it was totally unjustified and unbelievable.
Yeah, Hollywood. What are you going to do? Yeah, but I think I'd say he's likely to win.
Yeah.
And my preference here, Richard Jenkins. That said, again, haven't seen the Florida Project with Willem
Dafoe.
Okay,
he was the Green Goblin in Spider-Man.
Okay. Or Christopher Plummer and All the Money in the World. So I haven't seen those, so the only options here are Woody Harrelson, Sam Rockwell, and Richard Jenkins. And Richard Jenkins is definitely the best of those three.
Yeah, of those three, I would agree with you. My preference goes to Willem Dafoe for the Florida Project. First time I watched it, I said, he was good, but I don't know if he deserves an Oscar. But I watched it again over the weekend, and holy God, he really brought that performance home. There's the way that I like the cinematography of the Florida Project, the editing, is that it's a lot more lingering style of shots. So you don't have the quick cuts. You see him maintain his character over the course of several moments. Because there's no... I mean, it's not like a long cut movie, but cuts do last longer, and shots last longer than the average movie. So, would love to see Willem Dafoe get that Oscar. He was kind of the front runner before Sam Rockwell, so I'm hoping he cuts back in and wins it, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we got Best Adapted Screenplay as our last category before Best Picture. Charlie, what's missing from this list?
I have nothing for this.
I got nothing either. This was a really weak year for Best Adapted Screenplay. So weak that a James Franco comedy and a superhero movie were nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. So the focus was clearly on Best Original Screenplay this year. Mm-hmm. Anything you don't think should have been nominated here?
Let me take a second look here.
While you're looking, I liked Logan, but just on its own, I don't know if it warranted a Best Screenplay nomination. It was a good superhero movie, but I don't think, in the grand scheme, it was that amazing. It was good. I did like Logan.
Okay, so of the ones that I've seen, which would be Call Me By Your Name, The Disaster Artist, and Mudbound, I think they all are deserving.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Nomination.
Prediction preference. We can move on to Best Picture.
This is the one, I don't even have a prediction that I wrote down, but I will quickly decide here. God, I hope it's not Mudbound.
You hope it's not Mudbound?
I hope it's not Mudbound.
Huh. See, that's my preference.
Probably Call Me By Your Name.
I knew that would be your preference. Sorry, is that your...
No, that's my prediction.
Your prediction's Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah. I hope it's not Mudbound.
And your preference? Your two favorite movies of the year are nominated.
Probably The Disaster Artist, I guess. I don't know. It's tough to say.
All right, my prediction is also Call Me By Your Name. I don't think there's much competition. My preference, however, would be Mudbound. I really liked the screenplay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Best Picture, the one that you guys have been waiting for. And it's a pretty packed field this year. It's been a wavering frontrunner between The Shape of Water and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. But overall, there are 9 movies nominated for Best Picture this year. And they are Get Out, Dunkirk, Shape of Water, Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name, Phantom Thread, Darkest Hour, The Post, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. The first thing I have to ask you, Charlie, is what is missing from this list?
The Disaster Artist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. I get why, but I think it should still be on the list.
Anything else you think should be nominated?
Not really. All the ones that are nominated have some claim to the nomination.
All right. I got 3 that I think should have been nominated. even if they couldn't nominate 5, I mean, I got plenty I would kick off. I, frankly, would kick off Call Me By Your Name, I'd kick off Phantom Thread, I'd kick off Darkest Hour, I'd kick off The Post, I'd kick off Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I don't think any of those movies should be considered for the best picture of the year. I thought they were all, with the exception of Three Billboards, good movies, but I don't think they should be considered for best picture.
I would agree with Darkest Hour. The only thing that holds it up is Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
And Three Billboards, if it was a better year, would probably be gone too.
Yeah. See, sadly, I disagree with that.
Well, I know you think it was a really good year for movies, but...
No, I still think Three Billboards, like, if it came out last year or 2 years from now, it would be nominated.
Well, it would be.
Yeah.
It should be, or different things.
Exactly. But I still think it would be. So, I think The Florida Project, again, I really did think this was going to sneak through. I thought it was going to be nominated. It wasn't. I'm sad. I'm angry. Screw you, Academy. Baby Driver, again, a good screenplay, fun acting, well made. This is a great movie. This is everything you want from a great movie in Baby Driver, and I'm very sad it was not nominated. And then lastly, I, Tonya. I really wanted this to get a nomination, but it didn't. But it got Best Film Editing, which I think it deserved.
Yeah, I can see... I think it should be on there, but I can see why it's not.
Let's get into predictions and preferences. Let's start with preferences first before we make our way to predictions. Which of these movies do you think should win Best Picture?
I'm gonna have to say "Call Me by Your Name" just to be consistent with last episode. And we'll run it through one more time. Yeah, I still think it would be deserving of Best Picture, but that's a soft decision. My second choice would probably be Phantom Thread, which I hate to say.
Over Get Out?
It's not that cool of a movie.
You like Get Out better than Phantom Thread, though.
I do?
You said that in your top 5.
Maybe. I mean, that would be my third choice for sure.
All right, I'm going to give you the Best Picture nominations in my preference in descending order, starting with the one that I do not want to win, all the way to the one that I do want to win. Again, no secret. Three Billboards, my number 9. I didn't like it at all. The Post, Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread, Call Me by Your name. All movies I don't think should be nominated or should win. Lady Bird, liked it. Didn't totally love it, but a really good movie. Shape of Water is my number 3. I think the effects and the production design and detail and acting all behind it, the score, all great. But I don't think the story and the screenplay really warrant a Best Picture win. Dunkirk's my number 2, which means that my preference for Best Picture is Get Out. I mentioned this a lot in my top 5 of the year. No movie this year had more of a lasting effect. No movie this year had me as engaged in a movie theater as this one did. And no movie this year has, I think, been watched more times by me than any other movie on this. But again, it's 12,
That's
it's,
quite
it's
a
12 months old.
sentence.
Well, again, it's preference. And my preference, for sure, of these nominees goes to Get Out. A crowd pleaser, a huge entertainment factor, a critical success, a commercial success. If you want to get political, it was made by a black filmmaker in his feature film debut. So the Academy totally, if they want to get political, has an excuse to vote for this movie. I love this movie. The world loved this movie. Critics love this movie. Everyone loved this movie. That's my preference for Best Picture. Charlie, what is your prediction of who will win?
I just put down Shape of Water.
Why?
Just because of the buzz it's getting.
You don't sound too enthused about that.
I'm not. You know I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a boring movie. The things it has going for it are technical traits.
It's true.
Yeah, the story is lame.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue, for whatever dialogue there was, is lame.
But Octavia Spencer's delivery, just, wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, she really carries this movie, so, she could pull it in for a win. We'll see.
So bear with me, because I'm going to make a pretty bold prediction. And if you listened to my top 5 last week, or the week before that, you already know what it is, so feel free to listen to it again. I was thinking about predicting The Shape of Water, but this movie did not get a Best Ensemble nomination from the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and that totally limits its chance of winning. The last time a movie won Best Picture without a nomination for Best Cast at the SAG Awards was in 1995 with Braveheart. This was actually our first major warning sign for La La Land to lose last year, because it was not nominated for Best Cast, but we didn't listen. Three Billboards was supposed to be a big frontrunner, and that did not score a Best Director nomination. With the exception of Argo, a movie has not pulled off a win for Best Picture without that Best Director nod since Driving Miss Daisy, which was in the 80s. So again, 2 movies in the past, probably 30 years, have won Best Picture without Best Director. It's a big rarity. So this narrows down the fields of 2 movies that have scored Best Picture and Best Direct nominations at the Oscars, plus a Best Cast nomination at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. As 2 movies are Lady Bird and Get Out. Of those 2, I would argue that the more socially relevant, more timely, the better edited and better written and overall better movie is Get Out. And I think we can attribute that not only to what I just said, but also the maintained momentum it's had for the past 12 months. So impressive that this movie came out a year ago and is still as popular and as well received and has been getting all these nominations as it is. And so for that reason, I predict Jordan Peele's cultural and critical success will see the big win. Get Out is not a lock to win. Again, it only has 4 nominations, and that's a really low amount of nominations. It did not get nominated for Best Editing, which does not help it at all. But we see movies like Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread get nominated, and because there's 9 movies this year, it wouldn't surprise me if some of those top-tier movies like Shape of Water, Three Billboards, their supporters may want to throw some love somewhere else, and that will not help the odds of those movies. So, with that said, I predict Get Out will win Best Picture. Thoughts?
I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't be mad either.
Alright, so, those are our major category predictions and preferences. Before we say adieu, Charlie, let's shift over very quickly to the technical categories. Any big, bold predictions or preferences there?
No.
Alright, I'll go through a few very quickly, just for the sake of time. Best cinematography, it looks like Roger Deakins, who is probably the best working cinematographer today, might actually win after, I think, over a dozen nominations for Best Cinematographer for Blade Runner 2049. I was pretty indifferent towards the movie, but this man's a genius when it comes to work behind the camera, so I'd love to see him finally win. I really want Baby Driver to win Best Film Editing. I think it's going to go to Dunkirk. Unfortunately, I really want Dunkirk, however, to win Best Score, but I think that's going to go to The Shape of Water, and I really, really, really want Baby Driver to win Best Sound Mixing as well. So we'll see how that all plays out, but overall I have The Shape of Water winning 3 out of its 13 nominations, and winning 2 on Oscar night. I have Get Out, 3 Billboards, Coco, Dunkirk, Darkest Hour, and Blade Runner all winning 2 Oscars. And then 1 win for Call Me By Your Name, I, Tonya, Baby Driver, and Beauty and the Beast. So
cool. Wow, this is really like the March Madness for you, isn't it?
Tell me about it. I actually just published an article on my Oscar predictions and preferences on my website. That's socializedbycinema.com. So feel free to check that out. And kind of repetitive of what I mentioned today, but I go into a little bit more detail about why I made my choices, and kind of a ranking of where I list all the nominees in the major categories. So again, feel free to check that out. I'm at socializedbycinema.com.
Very cool. Alright guys, that's it for us for this episode for our 2017 Oscar predictions and preferences. Later on this week, we'll have the review of the movie Annihilation for you, which is a very cool and very trippy sci-fi movie that came out, a week ago?
Friday.
Yeah. Very cool movie. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next episode of the A to Z Movie Show. Mm-hmm. For those of you who reached out to us on Twitter and by email, we really appreciate it, guys. It really means a lot to us, and we do want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Mm-hmm. So continue to reach out to us like that. That's great. And we will see you later on this week for another episode of the A to Z Movie Show.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you guys listening to this special episode, and we'll catch you next time.